as well. Well, again, welcome. Thank you for attending live our ABA information session webinar. And thanks for joining me, Sam DeGangi, the program coordinator of our online ABA program. And I'm here this morning with my colleagues, faculty in our ABA program. Actually, we'll let each introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Buteau, Dr. B, as most of you know. I'll be talking about practicum in a little while. Morning.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cheng-An Yuan. Some of you have taken my class. Here are my live. Welcome to our ABA information session.
Okay, cool. All right, our focus today is going to be on the culminating activities of the program and also on our optional field experience supervision course. And so we certainly will be open to any other questions that you might have. The way that we will approach this, we'll go through some slides as an overview for each of these areas, starting with the culminating experience, SPE 597 ABA capstone and SPE 593 ABA applied project, and then the supervised field experience option, and then we'll be open for questions. You can use the chat box throughout our discussion presentation. The presenter, of course, won't necessarily be responding, but my colleagues and I will address each of the questions. If not immediately when you send it, we will get to it, or we will contact you directly by Slack or email. If we skip over your question, it was not intentional. They tend to fly by, as I'm sure those who are in the program are aware. And also, I want to welcome those who may be new to the program or who are just joining the program. This is a great time to get more information on the culminating activities for those who are at the conclusion of your program, and in particular for those who are going into the culminating phase of your program next session in summer session B. Congratulations, you're almost there. And let's get started. First, I will talk about the there we go. First, I'll talk about the ABA capstone. And so the culminating activities for our Master of Arts Special Education ABA program and our task list 4th edition MED in Applied Behavior Analysis. The capstone has been a culminating activity for the program, for the other online programs, master's level programs at ASU. And our new addition as an option is the applied project, SPE 593. So I'll start off by talking a bit about the capstone. And I'd like to start by pointing out that unlike all of the other programs that you've had in our programs, all of the other courses that you've had in your program, the 9 other courses that you've had in your program, this course is not really like a course. And actually, it does not function as your typical course. One of the main distinctions is that in the culminating activity and in the capstone, you are not being introduced to new material. Rather, the culminating activity is your opportunity to review your experiences from throughout the program, to align with the program objectives, which in this case are the BACB task list content areas. So you will note that there are no new textbooks that are required for the capstone 597 or for applied project 593. because this is your culminating activity of the program. So some of the distinctions between the capstone option 597 and the applied project will be clear after we go through each of review of each of these. And so I've included the general description of the capstone, and I won't read each of these slides to you, but I'll read this one. The capstone option is based on all coursework completed during the program through examination of each assignment, your project, your activities. You will, excuse me, you'll prepare a digital archive which you have assembled throughout your program, and you will compose a written paper demonstrating analysis and synthesis of the material that you have learned throughout your program. Here we go. You'll align experiences and artifacts. And what are artifacts? Artifacts are the assignments, notes, the materials that you have produced from throughout your program with the program area objectives, BACB content areas, the professional and ethical compliance code, and you will apply these to real world settings. Now, this should sound familiar to you because you have been engaging in this type of activity for those who are in the program in your courses throughout your program. And it will also come to mind that this sounds a lot like the field notes. And this is where I can hear everyone going, oh, the field notes. But the field note activity that you engaged in throughout your program is very much similar to what you will do during the culminating activity during the capstone, because you are, rather than within an individual course, which was the case with your field notes, you are now looking at your entire program, all of the knowledge that you have gained throughout your program, and aligning with demonstrating your experience, your expertise, your knowledge of the BACB task list content areas, the program objectives. So there was a strategy to using or to engaging in the field notes activity as you progress throughout your program. And you'll note that the reference to artifacts, to your assignments from that throughout your program, you already have all of those within easy reach, because in each of your courses, you have assembled your artifacts, your assignments as part of your digital portfolio. And so now at the conclusion of your program, you are now reviewing and aligning, synthesizing those learnings, those experiences, drawing from your digital portfolio. The way that the capstone is structured is, as I've just been describing, centers on content area alignment. And so rather than approaching the entire task list, the entire set of content areas all at once, the capstone is sequenced across the modules, just as was the case with the other 9 courses in your program. You focus in each module on a specific content area or areas as you construct your alignment. So I've included on this slide the assignment list, the assignment grid that you're familiar with from the structure of the course syllabi throughout the program. And you can see the major assignments that are listed. The content area alignment, which I've just been describing. You will engage in team discussion around those alignments, a demonstration of professional practice activity, the culminating paper, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And of course, you are now at the conclusion of your program very familiar with the task list. And so in each of the modules each of the primary task list areas will be a focus of each module. And then within those, you will look at the individual task list content areas that fall under those modules. So as you can see in Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, there are specific content areas that are the focus of your activity. Now, a question that often arises is, well, do we have to wait for each module to begin our alignment? And no, of course not. You, as you go through, as you review your work from throughout your program, you will be assembling your artifacts, your intended areas of focus and discussion across the modules. But for sake of organization, we sequence these with a content area or content areas assigned during each module. And as you can see, then progresses through the 7-module format that we use in the other 9 courses of your program. So the culminating paper, and I'll read a bit of this. The culminating paper is a minimum 12-page document, and structured with an outline, a table of contents, a reference section. And during the culminating, or in your culminating paper, you will consider the artifacts, content area alignment statements, team discussion summaries, field notes, peer review feedback, the materials, the experiences from throughout your program, and consider the professional position and the context that you plan to engage in following graduation. So for those of you who are intending on or perhaps already working in the field, your focus for your culminating paper can take on the structure of what you are or what you anticipate engaging in, specializing in after graduation. For those who are not planning on working directly in the field, you will look at what do you intend to do with, or how will you use the knowledge, information, experience gained throughout your program. So in this way, the culminating paper is very much individualized, personalized to your interests. This is not an assignment in which you have a very specific grid that you're following and everyone is conforming to that same approach, but this is your opportunity to demonstrate your knowledge and awareness of the program objectives, to demonstrate the experience and expertise that you have gained throughout your program, and to convey how it would be applied beyond the academic setting of your program. And so as you can see on the slides that I'm going through, this again sounds very much like the types of activities that you were engaging in within courses during your field notes. Now you're looking at your entire body of knowledge gained from throughout the program, how you will apply it and demonstrate your expertise beyond. And so, and as I note here, if you are not going directly into the field of behavior analysis, you can structure this in a way that you are conveying how this knowledge gained can be applied in a real world setting. One of the ways that, that students across the years have found effective in composing their culminating paper is to think of it from the perspective of if you were interviewing for a job or for a position, and you can determine what that position might be. How would you present to, in your interview or to your potential employer, not only the academic knowledge that you've gained, but how that is applied? There we go. And the way that your paper will be structured is around 4 themes. Now, what are these themes? You identify the themes. So reviewing again, the body of knowledge that you've gained from throughout your program, you will select or identify 4 areas of focus that perhaps resonated with you as you progress through your program. Perhaps these are areas of interest within applied behavior analysis that, that you have seen as particularly relevant to your current work, to your anticipated work, to your life. There is great flexibility with this piece because, again, the culminating activity is your individualized opportunity to demonstrate, to synthesize, and to communicate your knowledge. And I talked about that piece. Talked about the themes. I was ahead of my slides. Okay, so that's the culminating paper, and that's SP 597, the capstone. I'm now going to talk about our new edition as a culminating experience, SP 593, the ABA applied project. And the description of SP 593, you extend your theoretical and practical information gained from throughout your program to a real world setting. And that should sound very familiar and very similar to what I've just described for SPE 597, the ABA capstone. And it's intentional because the culminating activity of the program is an opportunity to review, to reflect upon, to synthesize the knowledge and experience that you've gained during your program. In SP 597, the capstone, you were doing this in from a perspective of a culminating paper and conveying your areas of interest and your anticipated use of the knowledge that you've gained. In the applied project in SP 593, you are demonstrating your experience and expertise by conducting and presenting a single case research design treatment or intervention. And so as with SP 597, this your activity and your focus in SP 593 applied project is not new. These are areas and activities that you have engaged in throughout your program. You are now assembling those in 593. You are applying those and demonstrating your experience, expertise, your competence at carrying out, at using the knowledge gained from throughout your program. And so the applied project culminating activity provides opportunity to design and carry out a single case research design project to determine efficacy of a specific intervention or interventions to improve socially important behavior of an individual with whom you work. Now, this is also the point at which question would in any time come up, and in particular during the very unique times that we are now in, with social distancing, with pandemic considerations, with limitations on our ability to perhaps even go to our workplace. And so the question would arise, well, how would I carry out an applied project today? Well, I can report that in our first offering of the ABA applied project, SP 593, in spring semester of this year of 2020, last session, we had about 130 students in applied project who successfully carried out their projects, and they were able to adapt, to modify their approaches to operate within the challenges and constraints and safeguards that were presented. For many, if not all of the students in our first offering, their their area of focus and their approach was in many ways different than what they had anticipated, even in session A of the spring or in January of the spring. And this opportunity we found, and they found, to also be of great value, because it was not only a demonstration of ability to apply knowledge gained from throughout the program, but to demonstrate how that knowledge and experience and expertise is used to modify and to accommodate situations and challenges that emerge. And one of the other pieces I want to, points I want to make is the last part of this sentence, an individual with whom you work. Question will arise, well, can this be hypothetical data? Well, no, this is actually, you carry this out as an applied project, and you focus on behavior. It need not be a human. It can be an animal, a pet. Many of our students in the spring offering of the capstone use their pet, which of course is very relevant to our work in applied behavior analysis and historically in the field of applied behavior analysis. And another question, well, could this be something with a family member? Yes. Unlike some of the constraints on your work throughout the program, and of course in our work as behavior analysts in the field, for this activity, you are not delivering a formal treatment to an individual. And so you can demonstrate your experience and your expertise with the components of applied behavior analysis. In this case, with a family member, with a relative as your participant. It would not be a violation of a professional and ethical compliance code, because you are from the onset conveying that this is a demonstration. This is not therapy or a treatment. And there we go. As in the capstone, and you'll reflect upon evidence-based behavior analytic practices and how they are applied in real life setting. But you, in this case, are demonstrating rather than composing your document that conveys your knowledge, expertise, and ability to apply. So I'll show you some of the structure of the capstone and how this, of the applied project and how this is set up. You collect data on one or more individuals. Remember, individual can be a human, can be a pet, can be someone else's pet, or just some animal. You will identify research-based strategies to address a target behavior, just as you have done in various activities and assignments throughout your program. You design and implement a behavior intervention plan to address that target behavior, collect data on the target behavior, conduct visual analysis of your data through graphing and interpretation, draw conclusions from your data, and you will disseminate, you'll present your project findings. So each of these key components of the applied project should be very familiar to you, to those who have completed the program, because you have already engaged in each of these activities in various assignments throughout the program. You've conducted functional behavior assessment, developed a behavior intervention plan, you've graphed data, you are now demonstrating your expertise, your competence with these. And so here is just a slide summarizing those 9 components of the applied project. The way that the applied project course is set up, rather than engaging in all of these activities, these components at once, they are sequenced. And so you receive feedback on each of the components as you progress through the course. Included here a summary from the course syllabus of each of the components of your applied project. And unlike, as I mentioned, your previous courses, they're not new readings, new assignment, or new there's not new information being introduced. And so unlike your previous courses where the readings that are listed in the course schedule are new, the way that we've structured the applied project course is listing the readings from throughout your program that are relevant to each of the components of your applied project. So you can use these as references. You also will be very familiar with each of these assigned readings because you have read them multiple times as you progressed, or as you will progress through your program. And so as you can see in each module, you conduct and submit for feedback and revision the components leading up to your final presentation. And so I'll flip back. As you can see in the beginning, in module 1, you identify your participant, you describe your participant, you gather relevant literature to inform your approach. You structure your description of your procedure. How will you collect your baseline data? How will you collect your treatment and intervention data and begin to graph your data in module 4? Interpretation of your graph data as you progress through the course. You will interpret your data, and then the product of your course in SPE 593 is a poster session. So rather than a culminating document, as in the SPE 597 capstone for your applied project, you are presenting your single case design, research design on a poster, a one-page poster. This is very similar to the way that a project would be presented at a what used to be the typical or traditional face-to-face professional conference, but now, of course, over the past months, even what was previously traditional format for our professional meetings and conferences has modified and has changed to online or to virtual. You are engaging in that same type of virtual conference among within your course as your culminating activity. And so these are some descriptions of the prompts to generate and identify your participant, to structure what will be your presentation. Here is a template that we provide for how your poster would be structured, and you can see that each of these components are very familiar to you. You have a brief introduction, bullet points, a very brief overview of your method, your results, visual display of your data, your graphs, key points in your discussion, and listing of your relevant references. And here's an example of how a poster might be structured. And so at the conclusion of the course in Module 7, we hold our virtual poster session. This is conducted online. It consists of the poster that you have prepared, and as well as a brief 5-minute or less video overview that you prepare of the work that you have engaged in. Again, paralleling how you would describe your project if you were engaging in a face-to-face interaction at a professional conference. You then have the opportunity to select and view other posters from throughout the course. And so as part of the virtual conference, you can identify those posters or projects that are of interest to you, searching on keywords, topic areas, and you can view those. You can view the presentation and provide feedback to your classmate, to your peer on their project, on what they have presented. Again, very much in the way that you would if you, prior to 2020, had attended a conference such as Association for Applied Behavior Analysis International, ABAI, and exactly how you would have engaged in that interaction at the event held a few weeks ago. So that's a very brief and very quick overview of the culminating experience options. And we can answer some questions at the end. I will now pass the virtual microphone to Dr. Buteau, who will talk about our supervised field experience SP 580 ABA practicum option. Take it away.
All right. Okay, everybody. So some of you may already know about practicum, but for those of you who don't, I will just take you briefly through some of the basic information and some of the most common misunderstandings and questions that we have about practicum. So SPE 580 is the course. The basic information is that it is a single credit, 1 credit, 17-week session C course. If I could have the next slide. The next slide. Looks like Dr. DeGangi is frozen. There we go. It's a session C course. It's dynamically dated, which essentially just means that the dates are not, don't follow the typical university calendar. So for example, fall practicum begins on August 28th and ends on December 22nd. So we do 4 full calendar months, or we try to do 4 full calendar months of practicum, and you'll see why in just a moment. We provide supervision remotely via Zoom. And the supervision that you receive meets the requirements of the BACB for supervised field work. You can earn up to 500 hours each long session C that you take the practicum. Supervisors are provided by ASU. These are ASU BCBAs. You do not need to find a supervisor at your work. You don't need a BCBA at your place of employment in order to participate in practicum. And most people do use their place of employment. So most places of employment within reason, kind of within the field, will work for practicum, and we work with you on that. The BACB allows a maximum of 130 hours per calendar month, which is about the same as 30 hours per week plus supervision time, to be counted as your supervision. 5% of that supervision, or 6.5 hours a month, will be provided by your ASU supervisor via Zoom. The BACB also requires a minimum of 2 observations by your supervisor per month, and we do those by Zoom video. So your supervisor will observe you engaging in some kind of activity with a client and provide feedback to you written and or verbally after having watched your video. The BACB has some non-negotiables. The 2 video recordings are requirements of the BACB, and those cannot be waived. So if your place of employment is going to put their foot down and say, absolutely not, no way can you video a client, you probably are not going to be able to take the practicum, because the board will not allow you to count any of your hours for a month if you don't have 2 observations from your supervisor. In general, most places are willing to compromise on those kind of hard-nosed knows about the video once we explain to them a little bit more about how we do that and confidentiality and those kinds of things. Another non-negotiable is that the BACB has something called an experience tracker and also a monthly verification form. You can find those on their website. We use those. The verification form is a requirement of the BACB, and some type of tracker is also required. And so we use the BACB's tracker to make sure that we are in full compliance with everything that they need us to do. The other requirement, this is a non-negotiable actually from our perspective, your BCBA supervisor from ASU is supervising you, the student, in your practicum activities. They are not supervising your client. There needs to be someone at work who's in charge of the programming or oversight of the programming at your work. So whether that's an IEP committee or another BCBA who happens to be your work supervisor. In other words, we cannot allow you to just volunteer with a friend or a friend's child and call that your practicum experience. It has to be something where there is some level of oversight of the clients because your ASU supervisor is only supervising you. So how do I choose my location? The setting of your practicum should be someplace similar to where you plan to work once you are a BCBA. The board strongly recommends that, and that is in keeping with our Professional and Ethical Compliance Code 1.02, which says that we will practice within our area of competence. In general, many of you are already working in areas where you'd like to work. So maybe you're in a clinic or a home-based setting and you plan to work for a private agency once you finish, or you're a teacher now and you want to stay with the district and become a specialist after you finish. Others of you may not be able to find work in the exact area where you're hoping to work, and we can work with you on getting you the kinds of experience that you're going to need to be able to fully do your job as a BCBA once you finish. If the setting in which you're currently employed is not explicitly ABA in nature, speak with me about that, because there may be ways around it. A very common one is if there's not data collection, excuse me, on a routine basis. So it's failing to meet the analytic requirement of the 7 components from Beowulf and Risley 1968. So we just add in data collection and graphing and analysis, and then boom, we have analytics. So we can work with you to try to identify ways to make your setting more on the ABA side if necessary. Wherever the setting is, you are going to need your boss there to agree to allow you to do the tasks that we ask you to do. Your supervisor for the practicum, the ASU supervisor, is never going to ask you to do things outside of your work activities. In other words, you're being paid by your boss right now to do a particular job. We're never going to say, don't do that job, do this instead. That's not what we do. We may ask you to do extra things, maybe outside of work hours. But whatever we ask you to do within reason for your position, we're hoping that your supervisor at work will allow you to do those things, and of course also record. The setting may be paid or unpaid volunteer, but again, it must include oversight of the client and their educational programming. The client's parent is not allowed to be the overseer of the programming. So the practicum site requirements that you're going to be looking for and that you'll be talking with me about include places where you're allowed to do the 2 recorded videos per month. If I could have the next slide, thank you. And a note about these video recordings, we must observe you, as I said, in order to count towards your 1500. We use Zoom like we're using right now, which is HIPAA and FERPA compliant. I'm so sorry. Give us just a second while we get down to. There you go. Only you and your supervisor from ASU are going to see these videos. So as most of you already know, probably when you set up a recording for a Zoom room, it's recorded to the cloud. There's a link to it with a password. Only you and your supervisor will have that link and that password. Zoom does destroy videos after a few months, and so there's no need to worry about any kind of destruction of those. This is really similar to if your university professor were driving over and observing you student teacher or whatever the activity you might be doing. So a lot of times when people hear you have to video record, there's kind of a panic, but it's just like if I were coming in and sitting in the back of your classroom and watching you teach. Similarly, except you're setting up a computer and you're recording yourself teaching or working with your clients, and then you're sharing that video with me. We could go to slide 41, actually. There we go. In terms of restricted and unrestricted time, those unrestricted tasks can be thought of as things that a BCBA might do, as opposed to maybe an RPT. So these are things like assessments, program planning, monitoring the programs, graphing data, analyzing data, researching the literature to determine what interventions are appropriate, FBAs, BIPs, meetings, all those kinds of things. The restricted hours are more like what an RBT or maybe even a paraprofessional might do. And those involve more direct working with the client. So that would be your discrete trials, your chaining, your natural environment teaching, those kinds of things. You are required, beginning this fall, we are requiring 60% of your total hours be unrestricted tasks and 40% be restricted. And I believe the slides say 50-50, and there was literally a change while Dr. DeCanchi was speaking. So we're going to be moving to a 60-40 percentage beginning this fall to account for some changes that are coming that I'll talk about in just a moment. Your ASU supervisor is going to help you find the kinds of unrestricted and restricted activities that are most appropriate for you. So in the first week of practicum, you meet with your supervisor, you guys create a personalized practicum plan, which you then revise and edit throughout the semester. And that will list different tasks and activities that you are planning to accomplish during that particular semester. And that's based on where you work and the tasks therein, the experiences that you've already had, the courses that you've taken, the courses that you're in, because you can't double dip coursework and supervision time. And also what you plan to do once you're a BCBA. So your supervisor at ASU is going to help you sort of take all that information and create a plan of restricted and unrestricted tasks that makes the most sense for you. Your supervisor at ASU and myself, we have really two goals of practicum. One is to get you to a point where you're just the best BCBA you could be when you get out there in the world doing your job, doing the job that you want to do. And the second, of course, is that you get there by passing the test. So they'll be keeping that in mind as well while they're getting your unrestricted and restricted tasks listed. All right. And so again, we're moving to a 60-40 from 50-50 beginning in the fall. Your supervisor then will be recommending at least 18 hours a week of unrestricted activities. And again, those cannot double dip with coursework. So if you've been assigned to read the chapter on stimulus control in the Cooper book for a class, you can't also count that reading for your supervision time. If you read it later or you've read it before for supervision, that's fine, but not at the same time. Your videos also that are required every month, the two of those may be either restricted, direct work with a client, or unrestricted. Training of staff and or parents counts as unrestricted time, and we do videos for that. So occasionally I'll have somebody who says, I only need unrestricted time. Can I do that? And what about my videos? And the answer is yes, you can absolutely come in to practicum just for unrestricted if you've already met all of your restricted hours. And your videos would be typically of you training someone else. So some frequently asked questions. Very commonly, people will have heard maybe at their clinic where they work or the school where they work that they have to find their own BCBA to supervise them in practicum. No, we will provide you with a BCBA. I will hand place you with a BCBA from ASU who is in your area of interest, is in your general geographic location or at least time zone to the extent that I can, so that you've got somebody who can best meet your needs going through the practicum experience. I'm still not sure my setting's going to work. What should I do? Contact me. I try to meet with every single person before they even apply, and particularly before you guys register for practicum, just so that I can get a feel for you and where you are, what you want to do, to ensure that I match you with the right supervisor. So if you haven't scheduled a meeting with me yet and you want to, just email me. Please email, not DM. I handle the scheduling of these practicum meetings via my email. And I hold practicum meetings every Tuesday between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. Arizona time, and other times by appointment. I read on the BACB website that something called practicum only requires 1,000 hours. That's something completely different. They're actually phasing that out, the board is. Our SBE 580 course happens to be titled practicum, but it is not in any way affiliated with what the BACB has designated as practicum. Again, they're no longer providing that designation to university programs, and they are fading that out. So you do have to get the full number of hours when you are in our SPE 580 practicum. I heard the number of hours is increasing soon, and how will that impact my practicum hours? So the BACB is increasing the number of supervised fieldwork hours from 1,500 to 2,000 beginning January 2022. That is when the first tests for the task list 5th edition will be given, and anyone applying to test after January 2022 will have to meet the new requirements of 2,000 hours. In addition to the 2,000 hour change, they're also changing to a 60-40% unrestricted to restricted time. What we are understanding from the board at this time is that if you've gotten your 1,500 by January 2022, but you have not yet applied for the test, as long as you meet all other requirements, the 60-40 unrestricted to restricted percentage, there's a requirement of 4 contacts with your supervisor per month, which everybody gets through the practicum. Then you just will add another 500 hours. You will not have to start over at the beginning. Also, this is very important for many of you right now, and that is that if you have applied prior to January 2022 and your application has been approved, you will have a 2-year window from the date of that approval in order to take the test under the current standards. So you will not have to add any time or do anything differently as long as your application has been approved before January 2022. Those of you who are coming into the program and you're not going to be finished by January 2022, you will need to get the 2,000 hours, and you and I will talk about that when we meet for practicum. I don't have a practicum setting lined up. Can I just go ahead and register? No. You do need a placement lined up. We do have something called a student placement agreement, a SPA, that is required by the field placement office, and that is between the field placement office and your employer, and that is required in order for you to start practicum. So you'll want to make sure that you have a setting lined up. Another related question, just right now during the time of closures because of the COVID-19 crisis, if you are employed, you have a place of employment, but you don't know yet if you're going to physically be able to go to it once the fall starts, that's okay. We have workarounds for that. When everything began to shut down in the middle of the spring practicum session, we were able to put procedures in place so that students could still obtain hours for their supervision for the practicum, and there was no loss of hours. So we can work with you on that as long as you are under contract and you have an employer. You and I will speak of that when we meet. So what's the next step? Contact your academic advisor for an application. And after that, you will be cleared to register. Again, contact me though to set up a time to meet. I see a lot of questions flying by, and so feel free to send me an email today, and we'll get you on the schedule for one of our Tuesday meetings. That's all for me.
Great, thank you, Dr. Butow, and Dr. Yuan for responding to, we've tried to keep up with the questions as they flew by. Dr. B may want to slide through there as well and sift through and see if there are some that, that we overlooked. And of course, when I type and I'm not in the right box, I advance your slides far beyond what you were speaking of. And to the questions on this, will the slides and that sort be available? Yes, on the student success site, we will place the slides, a PDF of the slides and a recording and transcript of this session. Okay, so now you have, you've completed your culminating experience, you've accrued your supervised field experience hours, and it's time to apply to sit for the exam. And granted, this may be in the future, not right now, but I do want to point out a couple of steps in your process. When you apply to sit for the BCBA exam, because you have completed a ABAI BACB verified course sequence, for those who are completing the MED program, the 4th edition course sequence, and for those who are in the MA program or in either of our certificate programs, your course sequences are valid and are verified, both the 4th edition sequence and the 5th edition sequence. For those who go to the ABAI site currently, you'll see the 5th edition sequence listed. The 4th edition sequence remains valid and verified. When you complete your application, our 4th edition sequence is number is 4064. The 5th edition sequence is 51171, and you'll see these under ASU on the site. The 4th edition sequence consisted of six courses, verified course sequence courses. The 5th edition sequence of 7 verified course sequence courses. You do not need to submit course syllabi because your courses are verified by ABAI. And so the content area allocation that's displayed on this table for the 5th edition sequence, this table for the 4th edition sequence is already known by ABAI and BACB. And so you only need to indicate that you completed verified course sequence. Now you note that for the 5th edition sequence, there are seven courses. Your additional courses for those in the degree program are not, you do not submit those to ABAI or BACB as part of your application. Those were toward your degree. And so as you submit your transcript as confirmation of your degree, those courses are noted, but you do not indicate the what would be elective courses. Only the verified course sequence courses are noted when you select your course sequence number. And if I go the right way, and that's it. If you have questions, certainly reach out to us directly. I've included on this slide, for those who are in the program, you know all this information already. As far as how to contact us, Slack direct message is a great way to contact us for rapid response. Our email addresses are listed as well. And again, as I mentioned, if we overlooked a comment that or a question that you may have typed into the text box, we'll go through those as well. That's it. have a great day. And we look forward to continuing to interact with you in our courses, in the program, and in the culminating activities, SPE 597 or SPE 593. Bye-bye.